Assholes with opinions.
I am the Gonzo Shark, and you are tuned into the Assholes with Opinions UFC 226 pre-fight show. Tomorrow night is UFC's biggest card of the year thus far, and it seems like every single year on the 4th of July weekend, UFC makes sure that they put on their best card of the year with the best fights. And tomorrow night is no exception to that. I looked up the rankings of all the fighters. I looked up the Vegas betting odds for all the fights, just to try to kind of keep myself a little bit up to date before I did this video. So I am pretty well informed right now, so I'm prepared for this. I'm just going to kick it off right from the bottom of the card to the top of the card, and just give my insights onto what I think is going to happen with the fights or who I'm picking. And also my awesome co-host Splatman, who's still in Florida, is going to send me his picks in a video format, and I'm going to put that at the end of this for everybody to hear what his picks are. So let's kick it off with the first fight of the night. Is two guys that I don't even know. I've never heard of them. They seem like they're both newcomers to the UFC. Gokhan Saki and Khalil Roundtree. The Gokhan Saki guy is the favorite, minus 135 to Roundtree, who's plus 115. And Saki is only 1-1 though in MMA, and Roundtree is 6-2 with one no contest. So honestly, I don't know either one of these fighters. I can't really call it, but if I had to call it, I would say the guy with the more experience will probably win the fight, unless the Saki guy is some sort of phenom and I'm not aware of it. Moving on, the second fight of the night is a great fight, and all of the fights on this card are very, very evenly matched, that's what makes a great UFC card. That's what makes any great fight card, and that's what they do every year on this weekend, which gets me so pumped for these cards. The second fight is Michael Chiesa against Anthony Pettis. Michael Chiesa is actually the favorite, minus 160 to Pettis, who's plus 140, but even with that betting line, you can tell that this is a very close fight. I would say that Michael Chiesa kind of has the edge. He's a younger fighter. He's very skilled, and he's more on like the coming up, as opposed to Pettis, who was already at the top, and he's kind of been on a slow decline for the past couple of years. Regardless, I think that either guy could win this fight because it's such a razor tight fight, and it should be a barn burner, no doubt about it. But I'm gonna go with Michael Chiesa on this fight. And if I had to call it, I would say he probably wins by decision. Moving on, third fight of the night, which is another barn burner. Mike Perry versus the Irish Dragon Paul Felder. Both of these guys are warriors. I've been a fan of Mike Perry for probably about a year and a half, when I saw him knock out Jake Ellenberger, and then he fought somebody else and knocked them out. And, I don't know, he comes off as kind of cocky or whatever, but I look at it more as confidence, and he knows that he can beat anybody's ass and knock anybody out. And I like his style. He's a warrior. His last two fights he lost, but they were both by decision, and that guy fought to the last second of each one of those fights, and he fought with everything and tried to knock the other guy out or beat him any way that he could. So I got a lot of respect for Mike Perry. Paul Felder, I don't even know as well. I've watched the last few fights that he's had, and I can tell that he's a beast, and he's very skilled on the ground. He's very skilled with grappling. He's very skilled in all areas of MMA. This fight, though, another razor close one. Paul Felder is a minus 150 favorite, and Mike Perry is plus 132. And I gotta say, I'm going with Mike Perry in this fight, just because I like his ferociousness, or his ferocity. I like, the guy's just a savage, so I'm gonna go with him. But I like both of these guys, make no mistake about it. With these cards, for me, it's like, when they put on these great cards, it's usually fighters that I like up all across the board. So I really try to put myself in a position where, like, I'm gonna be happy either way, because I like both of the fighters. I'm gonna I'm just going to be happy either way, because if either guy wins, that's good for them, and the other guy will just get stronger from the loss. So I really like when they put together these type of like super cards, because like I said, it's mostly fighters that I like usually, and I'm going to be pumped for the fights, and I'm going to be okay with whoever wins. I'm not going to be sorely disappointed. Like, if there's a guy that I can't stand and he knocks out a guy that I love, that will bum me out. These type of cards, when I basically like everybody, I'm happy either way. I just want to see some great fucking fights. That's all that matters to me. So I'm going with Mike Perry in this one, even though I think it's going to be a razor close fight. And I think Mike Perry has the power and the skill and the speed and just the savagery to knock out Paul Felder. So I'm going to say Mike Perry wins by knockout. The co-main event, which is now the new co-main event, because unfortunately, for anybody that hasn't heard already, Max Holloway was pulled from his featherweight title fight with the rising Brian Ortega, who I'm a huge fan of after seeing what he did to Cub Swanson, and then he just knocked out Frankie Edgar in like a minute and a half. And he was the first guy to ever knock Frankie Edgar out, and Frankie Edgar's been fighting for like years and years. And he's been at the top of his game for years and years. And this guy, Brian Ortega, just really has like a smooth, cool charisma about him. He seems cool, calm, and collected every fight that he has. You can tell he believes in himself, he believes in his skills, and he works hard, and I really like what he stands for, because he wants to help people, and he'll say that after every fight, before every fight. You watch any video about him online, he's dedicated to helping people. He's dedicated to doing humanitarian type work to help people that are less fortunate, and I have nothing but respect for that. I saw Michael Bisping and Kenny Florian doing an interview with Max Holloway, and this was just before he was pulled from the fight, and it was like via satellite, and Max Holloway looked drunk. Like, legitimately, he looked like he went on a bender for like 3 days. And Michael Bisping even asked him, like, "Oh, dude, are you tired? You have a rough night?" And Max Holloway was just trying to play it off like he was okay. But come to find out, the doctors said that he definitely has concussion-like symptoms. He was slurring his speech to Florian and Bisping. His eyes were all droopy looking. So they had to pull him from the fight, which is unfortunate, because that was one of the best fights that they've made in a long time. So I'm going to be excited for when they run that back and remake the fight, so that way we get to see that fight. We get to see Ortega test himself against a guy like Holloway, who both of those guys are incredible. So unfortunately, for all of you that didn't know, now you know, the co-main event has been changed, and the new co-main event is an unbelievable fight. It's so hard for me to say, but it's like I'm almost the most excited about this fight, even though I'm so excited about every fight. But the co-main event is Francis Ngannou against the Black Beast, Derek Lewis. And I'm a huge fan of both of these guys. Ngannou is one of the best heavyweight prospects that I've seen in years. I mean, years. Like, the last guys that I saw was Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos, that even reminded me of Francis Ngannou, or should I say Francis Ngannou reminds me of them. He's a phenom, but his last fight against Miocic, the title fight, it was obvious that his cardio was not quite up to par. But he's definitely tough. He's got a lot of heart. He's not going to give up. And the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, the thing with him is he's like not totally... he's not your typical or stereotypical looking fighter. Like, he doesn't have like the best body. He doesn't look like he trains 24/7 like a lot of these other guys. He's, more on the chubbier side, I guess you would say. But he's super agile. And the thing that I love about this guy is he just finds a way to knock people out. I've seen so many fights with him, at least like 3 fights probably in the last couple of years, that it looked like he was done and there was no way he was going to win, or it looked like he was about to get knocked out, or it could have been at the end of the fight and, you think he's going to lose a decision, and always at the last fucking minute of the fight, this guy manages to knock people out. And, that's what fighting's all about. That's what I love about when a fighter has that type of, viciousness to just go after it no matter when it is in the fight, and they're not thinking about whether they're winning or losing. So both of these guys bring a huge game to the table, and it's a huge clash of the titans. you know. So the one thing though is this fight, of all the fights on the card, this fight has the biggest gap in the betting line. Not that that means everything or even means anything, but Ngannou is a minus 360 favorite and Lewis is a plus 280 underdog. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I think that that's probably pretty accurate. But this is one of those fights where it's like, I've never really seen Lewis like in a lot of trouble. Like he got rocked from a punch or a kick and he looked like he was about to be out cold. And I've never seen that happen to an Ngannou. But I've seen both of these guys put tons of other guys in that position and then knock them out. So it's going to be exciting to see what happens. Lewis is big, he's agile, and his cardio is not like, I don't think he could go 5 hard rounds. Ngannou is big, agile, super powerful. He looks like he's in better shape than Lewis, probably, but his cardio is suspect too. So, this is a very even fight if you ask me. Even though the betting lines say differently, I think this fight is a lot more even than what people think. I think that Ngannou brings more skill and more technical striking ability to the fight, but I think Derek Lewis just brings that raw ferocity, that just vicious killer instinct to the fight. So it's going to be interesting to see which one of these guys can execute their game plan and how the whole thing's going to play out after they fight and after they close those cage doors. I mean, I have to say that I think Ngannou's going to win, just because I think that he might be the superior athlete and might have the edge in technical skill and just fluidity in a fight. So I have to go with him, but it would not shock me for a second if Derek Lewis lands a nasty punch or takes down Ngannou and beats him into the canvas, because that's what he likes to do. And a lot of people are saying there's a possibility that if Derek Lewis gets him down, Ngannou's not going to have a way to get out of it, and that's very believable. I don't know what Ngannou's wrestling skills are like on the ground, especially when he's on the ground with a 280-pound guy on top of him. Because there's no doubt about it that Lewis is cutting to 265. He's probably going in there like 275, 280. There's no doubt about it. Maybe even bigger. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I'm going to go out on a limb and call Ngannou in that fight. And then moving on to the main event, one of the best fights that UFC has put on in years, literally. Stipe Miocic is a guy that I wasn't super thrilled with him in the beginning. And then every fight that I saw with him, I just saw progression, more skill, more technicalness or technicality in his style. So Miocic, I grew to like him a lot, and I've seen the type of work ethic the guy has. I've seen the type of, he'll put his head down and he will fight. You know what I mean? And that's what I like. And I've seen him in trouble and come back. I've seen him get jacked up in his jaw and be on, wobbly knees, wobbly legs, and come back. So that's a crazy skill to have, especially for a heavyweight. And he's on like a 4 title defense streak. I think he's defended the belt 4 times in a row. DC, love the guy. He's a great fighter, and he dominated in the heavyweight division back in Strikeforce. And I think he had maybe 1 fight in UFC at heavyweight, and he won that fight. But that was a few years ago now. I mean, Strikeforce, when he won that Grand Prix, I think that might have been 2011. So we're talking 6-7 years ago at least. And he's not used to fighting heavyweights anymore. And he's also almost 40 years old. And I know Miocic is in his mid-30s too, I believe. But I think that Miocic is just going to be a little bit too big for Cormier. I think that Cormier is not the same fighter that he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I think that there's a possibility that John Jones fucked him up in a lot of ways. And especially with that last fight when he head kicked him. Because I've never seen DC get knocked out like that. And, they say that when you get knocked out, or when you get knocked out multiple times, each time you're kind of a different fighter. And, maybe the first couple of knockouts you get, it doesn't affect you. But then eventually those knockouts start adding up, and you're not the same fighter anymore. And not that DC's had a lot of knockouts, but I think with his age and just the miles and miles and miles that he's put on his body in the gym, and wrestling, in the octagon, in the cage, fighting, all that stuff adds up. And I think that John Jones knockout really fucked him up. And I gotta say, I think that Miocic is gonna pull off the knockout. I think he's going to catch Cormier and he's going to knock him out. But it would not surprise me to see it go the other way. I could be totally wrong about Cormier. And, like I said before, I wouldn't be disappointed either way. I love both of these guys. But, my gut tells me Miocic is probably going to catch him and knock him out. But like I said before, it wouldn't surprise me to see the fight go the other way too. Daniel Cormier's got some serious wrestling skills, so if he can implement that, he might be able to have an easier time than what I'm thinking he will. But the thing is that I know Miocic is just good everywhere. So if he gets him down, he's going to be able to hold him down. I don't know. But all in all, easily the best UFC card of the year so far. I really wish that other co-main event between Holloway and Ortega was on this card. It would make it that much better, but I'm not going to complain because this is still a stacked card from top to bottom. So yeah, that does it for my side of the UFC 226 Assholes with Opinions pre-fight show. Okay, so now I'm going to kick it over to my awesome co-host who's still on vacation in Florida, but I'm not letting him stay on vacation from the Assholes with Opinions show. That's not going to fucking happen. So let's kick it over to Splatman's predictions for UFC 226. My co-host Splatman just hit me up from Florida. He's having technical difficulties, and he's unable to record for his pre-fight predictions for the UFC 226 card. But he sent me his picks, and I'm going to read them off as follows so you guys know how Splatman's calling this card. So, in the main event, he's picking Daniel Cormier. In the co-main event, he's picking Derek the Black Beast Lewis. He's taken Michael Chiesa over Anthony Pettis. He's taken Mike Perry over Paul Felder. And he's taken Roundtree over Saki. So there you have it. Those are Splatman's picks. I hope you enjoy the fights tomorrow night. I hope you're as pumped as we are. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to click like at the bottom of this. And don't forget to tell your friends, tell your parents, tell your grandparents, tell your cousins, tell your girlfriends, tell your boyfriends, tell your teachers, tell your priest. Tell everybody you know about Assholes with Opinions on YouTube. Until next time, this is the Gonzo Shark for Assholes with Opinions. Checking out.